Every month I try to participate in a variety of book clubs, and sometimes I make it into videos and sometimes they don't, so I figured I should just make a video reading those books. Depending on the books I want to read for different book clubs every month, I might start doing this monthly. So for March, I have a few book clubs I'm participating in. By the time I had this idea, one had already happened. That was one of my own book clubs, but that's fine. I still have some other book club books that I want to read, so let me tell you about them. The first one is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is the Literally Dead book club pick for this month, hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. This is a cozy mystery. I'm really excited about this one. I've read from this author before with mixed results, so I'm really hoping this one goes well. I have my public book club that I already talked about. I have a Patreon book club, but the book for March is going to be in another video. And then I also have a read-along that's going on Patreon. Right now we are rereading the Hunger Games series, and we are starting with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, so I'll be reading this. This entire series is a reread for me. I also want to read The Center. I'm so sorry, but I do not want to try to mess up this author's name. This is for the Dark Hearts book club hosted by Amy from Amy Noel Reads. I believe this one is horror and kind of weird fiction, and the cover is incredible. And then Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. This is Kelsey from Slime and Slasher's pick for the Midnight Book Society. This is a Celtic horror. Yeah, it deals with Irish mythology. This one scares me because there's no audiobook. So these are the 4 books that I am planning on reading. I will be starting with Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I have made it 130 pages into Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. Yes, by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is the Literally Dead book club pick for March, and I was really interested in this one because I do like cozy mysteries, and I have read from this author before. I've given her 2, 3, and 4, maybe 4.5 stars. My favorite by far was Dial A for Aunties, which is the most similar style of book to this one. I also read I'm Not Done With You Yet and The Obsession. I think I gave The Obsession 2 stars. It was YA and just wasn't my favorite story. And then I'm Not Done With You Yet I thought was okay. So in this one we are following Vera Wong, and she owns a tea shop and she's very lonely. Her husband is not alive. Her son doesn't really keep in contact with her, even though she really tries. And one day she wakes up and there's a dead man in her tea shop. So she takes it upon herself to help the police. She takes a Sharpie and draws a line around his body on the floor. She prepares tea and snacks for them for when they come to investigate. And they're very quick to dismiss her, and she obviously doesn't like that. And she thinks that they're kind of incompetent because she thinks it's very clear that there was a murder and they don't think there was one. So she starts making a list of suspects. There are multiple people that end up going to her tea shop, and her thought is that the murderer tends to show up at the scene of the crime, so anybody that has started to show up is now a suspect. She also takes a flash drive from the dead man's hand before calling the police. So she has some evidence that she's kind of trying to figure out what it is to help her solve the murder. If that was in his hand when they found him, maybe they would have also thought it was a murder, but that's fine. So there are a few people that end up turning up at her shop, and we are getting all of their perspectives, so we do know that they all have a connection with the man who has died, and they're there because they may or may not have had something to do with his murder. 2 of them are lying to her. One says he works at BuzzFeed. Another one says she owns a podcast. The other one is the dead man's twin brother. And then the 4th one is his widow. But we very quickly find out that they separated the day before. So they all have motives, but we are learning about them, and I'm really enjoying this. It's very fun. Vera Wong as a character is just really enjoyable to read. It really does remind me a lot of Dial A for Aunties, but I think I'm liking this one a little bit more. It's been a while since I read that one, so I can't really remember everything that happens, but that one felt a little more ridiculous for me, which I do tend to love, but this one feels more realistic, I guess. I'm really having a good time with it. I want to know more about all of the connections to this man and obviously what ended up happening to him, and I just really like watching Vera doing her investigating and getting to know all of these characters as well. I'm really, really glad that this was a book club pick. It's one that I was interested in, but I'm not sure when I would have picked it up without reading it for Kayla's book club. I'm really having a great time. I am now 218 pages into Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, and I'm really enjoying this still. There's not much plot development. Like, there are things that are moving along, but there's not like really anything that has been super groundbreaking to like update you on. But I just really like these characters. I really like Vera Wong as a person. I like seeing her culture and how that impacts her relationship with different people. I think it's always interesting to see how people are raised and how that impacts them and how their expectations of other people vary. And Vera Wong is just so funny. She's very entertaining to read. I'm having a really, really good time with it. It's just such a fun time, even though there's obviously this like gruesome thing that happened. It very much feels like a cozy mystery. We have our amateur sleuth and there's food involved in this, her tea shop, and then just like seeing her relationship with all of these different people. And she's even like, yeah, one of you could be a murderer, but like, oh well, here's some food. It's just really fun. It's a really good time. I'm so glad that I picked this one up. It makes sense that El Casamano has blurbed this for sure, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the end. I'm kind of sad to have to say goodbye to Vera Wong at some point. I'm not sure if this is going to be part of a series. I know Dialect for Aunties is a series, so I guess there is a chance that this one could be, but I hope we get more from this character. So the audiobook is due super soon, so I'm gonna get back to reading that. I'm not gonna be able to finish it with the audio, which is fine, but while I have it, I want to make use of that. I'm really excited to keep reading this. I have finished Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. Also, if you have a book due on Libby, the audiobook specifically, and you just let it play and you do not open your phone, it won't return. It was due at 8:52 and I listened to it for an hour and a half past the time it was due, and I just paused it with the like button on my headphones, and then I unpaused it after like 10 minutes and still could listen to it for the last half an hour that I needed it. So that, absolutely incredible. Obviously, like, that's not always feasible to not be able to open your phone depending on the time you need to finish it, but there's a Libby hack because it still returns, so the next person still gets it, but it's like a little thing for you to still finish it. Most people probably do not test Libby so much and get down to the wire quite as much as I do, but in case you do. Anyway, I think I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars. It's really, really hard for me. This is one of my favorite cozy mysteries that I have read, but the 5-star for this just doesn't feel like my 5 stars for other books. Like, I had a really good time with it. I thought it was fun. I liked the characters. I really, really liked Vera Wong's character, but there's just like something about it, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I just like, I don't know. It's not exactly 5 stars for me, and I'm not super strict with my 5 stars either, but I just didn't feel the same way about this as I feel about my 5 stars, even if they aren't all-time favorites. I do think that the way this wrapped up, I like wanted it to be slightly different. Like, I appreciate the things that happened and just the discussions on family, like your own family versus found family, and how cultures impact things. Throughout the whole book, people weren't always what they seemed. And I just think it was done really, really well. I thought it was fun. I loved seeing the culture in Vera Wong. I desperately want to eat some of the food that is in this one. It sounds so good. It's very lighthearted, cozy, fun, which are not words that I would use to describe generally anything that I read, but I just really enjoyed it. I do want to get a copy of this for my shelves. And this wrapped up in a way that I don't think there is going to be a sequel, but I would definitely read another one. So this was absolutely a success, and I'm ready to read the next one. Next up, I'm jumping into The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I am reading this for my Patreon read-along. We are currently doing the Hunger Games series, starting with this one. So in April, we are reading the Hunger Games. May is Catching Fire, and June is Mockingjay, and then we will have a Google Meet meetup to discuss the whole series. If you are interested, the 3 months after that, we are reading 3 books by John Mars, and then the final 3 months of the year, we are reading 3 books by Rachel Harrison. Both of those will be including their newest release during that quarter. So I am now to the end of part 1. I will say that I kind of wish I had not seen the movie recently because I really liked the movie adaptation of this. I think it was done really well, and I think that we got more from the side characters. Like Viola Davis's character, who is the game maker during this time, in here feels cartoony and villainy, and she just felt like this like mastermind in the movie. That's the main one that stood out to me, but even some of the other side characters I feel like felt more like people in the movie. But I am looking forward to seeing even more of Coriolanus Snow's thoughts in this. Can we talk about the fact that She named him Coriolanus. And then the other main guy is Sejanus. Have some questions for her. But this is following the 10th annual Hunger Games, which is pretty much wiped from existence, so we don't really know anything about it. And this is really the start of when the Hunger Games become the big show that it is. In part 1, we are seeing the lead up to that. We are getting to know Coriolanus, his relationship with the games at this point, his family dynamics. He is an orphan and he lives with his grandma and his cousin Tigress, who we see in the later books. And at this point, you're kind of like feeling for him. He is just trying to survive and get by. Obviously, he has it better than the people in the districts and everything, but it's just a really interesting contrast with how we know him in the 3 books later. Part 1 ends as the games are about to start, so I am looking forward to seeing how that is done in here. This is a reread, by the way. I read this when it came out in 2020, and then by the time I saw the movie, I forgot literally everything. But so far, so good. I do think that it wasn't as entertaining as I wanted it to be. I think that it didn't need to be this long. That's really my main issue. I think that part 2, which is the games, is going to feel like a good length. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of the things that I know are going to be happening, mostly because of the movie. There have been a few changes which have been interesting. This is not like a book to movie analysis, but they added stuff into the movie to give us even more like callbacks to the original series, which I think was fun. I'm doing a watch along of the new movie with my Patreon soon, and I'm really excited about that. If I had to rate the first part, it would probably be 3.5 stars. I think that it could have been paced a little bit better and maybe a little more interesting, but also it is YA, so I have to like remember that because I just want it to be darker, and I know it's going to get there, but if it's too dark too soon, that's probably too much for YA books. I'm really excited to see part 2. I'm curious how closely the movie follows this. I know with the movie I felt very stressed and it was high action, so I hope I get those same feelings from this. I just read part 2 of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Part 2, incredible. It very much reminds me of the original series, and it's just so intriguing to see the things that are like standard in the games later on in the original trilogy kind of come to life. Like obviously they are horrific things, but it's just like the thought process behind how all of these different aspects of the game are integrated is just so interesting. And I really like seeing Snow's internal thoughts. I think that in the movie adaptation of this, the way he is portrayed, and like really I don't think it could have been done any differently, he feels very much like a good guy until later on, and in this you see that that is not the case. He does things and then there's just this internal thought about how it is being done because of this reason, or he didn't really want to do this but he only did it to kind of further his agenda. And it's just really interesting to see that because moving forward, you know, things that he is doing later on, and just seeing the origins of all of this, because at one point he was like not an absolute terrible person, and it's just like the society and the people around him and the way that things are happening that cause him to think the way he does, which obviously does not excuse anything, but it's just very thought-provoking. Part 2, I would rate 5 stars. I think it's going to be my favorite part. It was my favorite part in the movie, and in the movie I liked part 1 more than part 3, but I can actually see it being flipped. I think that the first time I read it, I was very surprised at the direction that it went in. I wasn't expecting this much of the book to be not centering the Hunger Games, but I think with the knowledge of what's to come, I could like it even more because I know we are going to get in Snow's brain. I don't really want to be there, but also it's just so interesting. My complaint of this book still is that it's too long. It does not need to be 517 pages. Like, it just doesn't. I think the first part could have been cut for sure, and I'm assuming the last part I will not need all of the pages either, but I am enjoying my time rereading this. I wish I remembered my initial... There's a bug on my ceiling. Ew. Anyway, I wish I remembered my initial thoughts on this a little bit more. I didn't leave a review of it anywhere. I know I liked it, but I can't remember if I'm liking it more now this time versus before. But I am really glad to be doing a reread of this. I think it's interesting after seeing the movie, and I'm really, really looking forward to the internal monologue and seeing more of his thought process for a lot of things that are to come. I have finished the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This chunker really does not need to be this long, but I am going to give it 4 stars, which is my initial rating as well. I know this book gets a lot of hate because people didn't want a book about snow. Like, he sucks. He's awful. He's terrible. I hate him. But it's just really interesting to see how characters that are so terrible end up being that way. The last third of this was the least action heavy, but we did get to see more of his thought process and how he is slowly becoming the villain in the Hunger Games trilogy. And I really like it. I think it's fun. There's just a lot of like manipulation going on, which like obviously we knew that. I do see some complaints about this with the romance between Lucy Gray and Snow, and I like, yes, it's a romance, but I don't feel like it was ever romanticized. I feel like it was very clear that it wasn't a good relationship and that it was just kind of a means to an end and a way to kind of cover up other feelings. So like that didn't bother me because I didn't like see it as this like, oh, I love this romance kind of thing. I obviously do want like Haymitch's games and things like that, but I still think that this is a fun one. My complaint is that it's too long. I think that if it was shorter, the pacing issues would be fixed. And I do wish that this made me feel a little more tense. I feel like the movie did a better job at kind of like sucking me into the story and the action than this did. And I think that part of that is because I feel like you could just like feel the characters more in the movie versus the book, other than Snow. So, very glad that I read this. I cannot wait to get into the Hunger Games in April. I have reread the Hunger Games and Catching Fire. I think I read them both in 2021. I didn't read it when this came out, but I read it a little bit after that. It might have been 2022. But like, I will reread them forever. I love them. I love them so much. I am now to chapter 5 in the center, which is about 35% in, I believe. And I will say that I am enjoying it now, but I almost DNF'd it after the first chapter. These are fairly long chapters, and I initially only listened to the first chapter, and I was like, I hate this. I don't like this at all. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And I was really annoyed, and it took me a while to pick it back up. And after the initial chapter, I've been really invested in it. So we are following Anissa, and she dreams of being a translator of the great works of literature, but she's currently doing subtitling and a little bit of translating, I believe, and she lives off of her parents' money, and she is in this relationship with this guy named Adam, and he generally is like really good, but she is trying to teach him her native language. Our main character is Pakistani, I believe. Gillian Flynn Books. Is Gillian Flynn a publisher now? Interesting. So she takes him to meet her parents, and out of nowhere he can speak the language fluently, and she's like, you've been lying to me because you've been acting like you can't speak this, and now you magically can. And he's like, don't be mad at me. I am part of this secret program and I can only tell one person about it, so if you really want to know, I will tell you, because he knows that she's interested in translating anyway. So she ends up learning about the center, which is a place where you can learn languages very quickly. I think it's like a 2-week period, maybe 10 days. And she agrees to do it. It is like $20,000. I wish I had rich parents. So she ends up going to the center and she wants to learn German. So where I am right now, she is in her first course. And there's just like something weird going on, but you don't know what it is. Like, obviously, how is somebody going to be fluent in a language in 10 days? And like, she had to take a medical exam before she was allowed to go in and all of this stuff. So we don't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on, but she is starting to learn this language. I'm really interested to see what is going on in the rest of this, because at the moment it's like not that much is happening, and also it's like kind of weird but like also not that weird. So I am enjoying it, but I'm tentative about the rest of the book at this point. I really want it to get weird. It doesn't feel like some of my favorites, but it's kind of in the vein of like Natural Beauty and Camp Damascus and things like that, where you know something is wrong and you're just waiting to figure out what it is, but like the feeling of wrongness is just like what's driving the story, but I'm not feeling quite those feelings, so I'm not as like invested as I am with other stories that feel similar to this, but it could get there. So I'm looking forward to reading more of this one. I am 186 pages into the center. I am liking this, but I feel like it's just missing something for me. I feel like there's not enough weird things happening. Like, I don't know how to explain it, because I'm sure people feel the same about some of the books that I feel just like have the most ominous undertones possible, and they're probably like, what is wrong with you? But this one is just, there's something about it that I feel like it's missing something. I really can't put my finger on it, but I think right now it's kind of sitting at 3.5 stars. I do think that if the end is just like done so well, it could be 4, but I don't know. My enjoyment is there. I'm interested. Like, I want to know what's going on, but I feel like there's not enough intrigue for me, which really sucks, but I'm still liking it. I think that there's been some interesting conversations in here, and this one's really hard to talk about. The things that are going on are impacting our main character in a very interesting way. That's all I can really say, because I feel like everything that she's like really going through at this point is kind of spoilery, but it's interesting to see how she's reacting to all of this stuff and how her dynamics have changed with other people because of this. It's pretty late, so I'm gonna go feed my cats and go to bed and finish this up in the morning. I am looking forward to seeing how it wraps up, but I wish I was feeling like desperate to finish it tonight instead of waiting till the morning. I have finished the center, and I finished it yesterday, and I needed some time to think about my writing. So I waited a day, and I still don't really know what I'm rating this. The thing is, I really, really liked the direction it went in theory, but for some reason there's just something about the execution of this book that missed the mark for me, and I just don't know what it was. I've been seeing some reviews saying that they didn't like this because our main character was very unlikable, and I didn't really have that issue, but I just never felt like I was super in the story. I think there was just like a little too much other stuff going on. And like, I don't even know how that makes sense. I think I just wanted more to take place at the center, I guess. We did learn about things at the center in a different setting later, but I think I just wanted to see more of the things happening at the center. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm between 3.5 and 4 stars. I really liked the direction this went in. I really wish that it went even further into that, because like it was fun. And the weirdness did happen at the end, but I kind of didn't feel the build up to the weirdness. Like, I didn't feel tension about like what's going on, like what is the weird thing that's happening behind the scenes. I'm almost leaning towards a very specific 3.75 for this, which I don't generally do, but 3.5 doesn't feel high enough, and I think 4 stars might be too high. I'm really, really not sure. I really liked this in concept, not as much in execution, but I still enjoyed the execution. What a weird time. I would read more from this author. The book felt very unique. It was fun. It had a lot of really good conversations, and I've also seen people say that like it was too on the nose for them, and I don't know. That didn't really bother me. That doesn't tend to bother me in books. I think my issue is just I felt a little bit disconnected from the story. Not that I like needed to relate more to the character, but just like something about something made me feel slightly removed from the story, and I wanted to be in it more. I am glad that this was Amy's book club pick. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I would have heard of it without her, so I'm very happy with this. The final book, Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson, is for Kelsey from Slime and Slashers book club. I really wish this one had the audiobook, but I haven't really heard many people talk about this. Truly, I don't even remember what the synopsis is. I hope this one is really weird. I don't really know what to expect from this one, but I'm excited. Let's see how this goes. I'm on my hammock outside, but things are looking kind of wobbly. I'm so sorry, but I really don't want to go back inside to do this update because I'm coming right back out here to sit in this. Also, you can see my microphone. We're making do. And Bowser's tail. I am a third into Knock Knock Open Wide, and I asked for weird, and it is exactly what I got. I am obsessed with this. I truly am having the best time with it. It's been a very slow process for me because there's no audiobook, and I've just had so much going on this week, and my focus is non-existent. Like, it's way worse than usual. But I am 104 pages in, so we are following really two different timelines. We are following Etane, who is in the 1970 something timeline. This is going well. 1979. And at the beginning, we see her going to this house party. Oh my god, if I film out here ever again, I need to bring a table out. Anyway, this is so chaotic. She is at this party that her sister is putting on, and she ends up getting proposed to, and then she leaves in the middle of the night, and she is like, I have to drive back home. I have my job tomorrow and I can't lose my job. Like, my mom's already going to be mad at me for getting engaged to you, and we don't have a good relationship. So then the next day, it turns out that Etane is missing, and Barry, who is her fiance, is the main suspect, and he's being interviewed and everything. We know that she finds a corpse on the side of the road and decides that it's not humane to just leave it there because the dogs are eating it. So she puts it in her car and ends up at this farmhouse, and then something weird happens, and she doesn't have memories of most of the night, just getting there and leaving. And that stuff I am completely, truly 100% obsessed with. Like, it was so weird and interesting, and there was just something about it that I'm like, I need to know every single detail about anything that happened with this. So I really love that. And then we are also getting 20 years in the future. We are following Betty, who is at college, and we are watching her relationship with Ash, who is another student there. They meet when Ash is out trying to get people to join the drama club, and Betty ends up joining because she's like, oh, I like her. And we are watching their relationship kind of starting to form. And even that stuff is really interesting. Betty finds herself a folklore major pretty much, and she has to do a project for that. And there's like weird stuff going on. And I just like, I need to know everything. I am really, really loving it. Even the stuff that is in the more present day, even though it's a while ago, like, that stuff is just interesting to me because there's something going on. I need to know what it is. I am loving this. Depending on how this goes, this could be my favorite book of the year so far, which is so exciting. It just has to keep getting weirder, right? So I'm going to continue sitting in my wonderful hammock. The next update will not be from this wobbly spot, so sorry, but I can't wait to read, and I did not want to go inside and set everything up and then have to come back out here. I have made it 204 pages into Knock Knock Open Wide, and I'm still so obsessed with this. I need to know what's going on. I need answers. I want to know immediately. I've slowly been making my way through this one. I just really do not have the focus to read physical books right now, but once I sit down and am reading, I'm very invested. There's a lot going on in here. Recently, we have been more so in the past storyline, and we are learning about things that we know have happened from the present day storyline. It's so interesting, and there's just like, there's something. What is happening? What is going on? The weird thing, I'm so intrigued. I seriously am obsessed with this. I think that there's a lot going on in a way that feels like it's all super connected. So I just like am really invested in everything that's going on, and not in a way that it feels very disjointed. I'm like, I wish we were getting back to the other part. The timeline in the past is my preferred timeline because that is where the really weird stuff is happening. But in the present day storyline, we are getting some things happening and also learning about things in the past. And it's just so good. It's so good. I am obsessed with this. I need to go get a copy of this for my shelves immediately. Like, oh my god, this is one of my favorite books of the year and I'm not even done. Seriously, I'm so glad that I read this. I kept putting it off because there's no audiobook, and apparently the author said that nobody bought his previous audiobook, so they didn't want to do one for this. I don't know when his previous book came out though, because like I feel like audiobooks in the last couple years have become so popular. So anyway, there is a lot of like theater stuff in here that I think could be not very interesting for a lot of people. And I wouldn't say that I was a theater kid growing up, but like I was very involved in theater stuff, not to the extent that like it's depicted in books, but I have done my fair share of musicals specifically. So the things that are happening are also really interesting to me, even when they're not related to the super weird stuff, because like I have a personal connection to it. I just love this. I think it's so good. I think it's interesting. I love the weird stuff that's going on. I love that we are getting glimpses into things and it's like teasing us with the answer and we just don't know, but like you can tell that there's, I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's so good. It's interesting. It's fun. It's weird. And I love it. I think this is my favorite book of the year. Oh my god, I'm so obsessed with this. It was so weird and it was just very interesting. There was so many like really cool Irish mythology aspects to this. I will say that this is a slower one and it took me a really long time to read the book. A lot of it is my brain up here. I've been having a lot of trouble focusing recently, but like every time I pick this up I was like, I love this. It's so good. I'm completely obsessed with it. And like, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. So, this is not specifically one that I would go around like widely recommending. I think it's slow. It is definitely like more of a drama between these characters, and seeing how they are reacting to these situations. But then there's some moments where like the first chapter of this, I don't even know how to talk about this book. I don't know. But like I love it. I love it. It is just so weird and you don't know what's going on. And I just love that. I don't know what it is, but books that just feel very ominous and like clearly there's things wrong. I don't know. It's just my favorite thing. I truly don't know what to say about this book. I think that if you like slower and weird things, you should try this, but it's definitely not one that I'm screaming at everybody to go read, even though like I am obsessed with it. This one is really tough. I'm also so mad that there's not an audiobook for this. I think it would be done really well and I think it would be really effective and I would love to listen to it. Oh my god, there's just scenes in here that I think I'm gonna think about forever. And just like, I don't know, everything about it, I loved it. It had a slightly similar concept to Mr. Magic by Kirsten White, and I really love this one. I like this one more, but both 5 stars. I really love both. They both have the like weird, like you don't know what's going on with this TV show that like happened in the past and people have different memories of it kind of thing going on, but this one definitely was more explained and also just like had more to it, but they feel very similar in like vibes. I do have Hide on my shelves. I enjoyed it generally. I don't think it was perfect, but I also read it after a lot of people and went in, I think, with the correct expectations, so that helped with that. But I like Mr. Magic significantly more. Anyway, obsessed. One of my new favorite books. I need to get a copy of this immediately. It was so good. This video was so successful between this, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, which is another one of my favorites of the year. My reread of this went well, and even though this one was like a 3.5, 3.75, whatever, I still enjoyed this one as well. I'll have links to all of these book clubs in the description. I'm going to be doing another one of these for April with some of the same book clubs, but also some different ones, and I'm super excited for some of these books. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji to say you're here, you can leave me a goat for knock knock open wide. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will see you soon. Bye.